Hola, hola, ProGuides familia. Soy Rafa. Today we got more Wild Rift content in the form of another counter in the meta video, but this time around we're taking a different approach. We're going to be showing you how to counter the champions that are supposed to be countering you. This requires a little bit more game knowledge and a firmer understanding of both your champion and the champion you're playing against, but I believe in you gamers. I know you're also very bright and you're going to catch on really quick. So let's jump right in. Our first matchup is Fiora versus Garen. Typically, Fiora is Garen's counter, and this is a matchup that we talked about in a previous Counter the Meta video. Make sure to check it out in the link. Overall, the matchup is very dependent on Fiora managing to parry Garen's silence. If she manages to do so, Fiora absolutely destroys Garen, winning out against him thanks to the incredible mobility provided from her first ability, Lunge. This allows her to reposition and angle her attacks to hit vital spots effectively, granting her additional healing and sustain to outtrade Garen. Now, most Garen players are very telegraphed with their usage of this first ability in Decisive Strike. The additional movement speed granted from the ability is very helpful in Garen's initial engage and helps close the distance between him and Fiora. But running in with a giant glowing sword is just a one-way ticket to eternal pain and sadness, as you are screaming to the Fiora, hey, I'm coming in with a silence, get ready to counter, it's super free, and I'll be destroyed and I'll be really sad. So please don't do that. Instead, just walk up to the Fiora, start auto-attacking her, and then weave in a Decisive Strike as an auto-attack reset. This provides way less reaction time for Fiora to be able to counter your silence, and then because she can't use any of her abilities, you're able to get a sizable chunk of health off of her in the trade before she's able to counterattack. Do this a couple times until she's at a low enough health point for you to execute her, and then hit her with the Demacia and win lane. It's that easy. Remember, the counter pick is only useful for those who actually know how to counter the champion. Before we move on, we've got our question of the day. Which champion do you believe has the least amount of counters in the game at the moment? Typically, a weak champion has tons of counters, while strong meta picks have overall less outplay potential. For me, it's gotta be my boy Lee Sin. He's got amazing mobility, a versatile playmaking kit, and can be strong at every single point in the game if you are playing him well, which, according to my ranked stats, I can do about 58% of the time. Anyway, I wanna see what your answer is in the comment section below. Also, if you want to complain about broken picks or talk about Wild Rift in general, be sure to join our community Discord. We got tons of friendly players eager to share their experiences. If it's any more incentive, we also make memes about our resident Braum, aka Kangas. So there's that. Hope to see you guys there. Our next matchup is Kaisa versus Ezreal, which was covered in our Counter the Meta video around a month ago. Typically, Kaisa is a fantastic counter to Ezreal because you can simply hide behind minions and avoid a bulk of Ezreal's damage. And then you throw out her Akathian Rain for short bursts of trade. The key aspect of playing against Ezreal is wave management. So how exactly can you beat out Kaisa as Ezreal? The key is abusing your auto-targeting skill, Arcane Shift. First, throw out your Essence Flux. This ability, unlike Mystic Shot, actually goes through minions, and its hitbox is actually quite massive. If you manage to hit this as Ezreal, the next attack you hit on Kaisa procs the passive, granting additional damage. Now, if Kaisa is hiding behind minions, proccing Essence Flux with Mystic Shot is going to be very difficult. That's where Arcane Shift comes in, because this ability blinks Ezreal in a given direction, throwing out a small magic attack that automatically prioritizes the target that has been marked with Essence Flux. This allows Ezreal to automatically hit Kaisa with some pretty impressive damage during the laning phase. But be warned, Arcane Shift is Ezreal's one mobility spell during escapes, so make sure you're only doing this when you're sure the enemy jungler isn't there to punish and that your support is going to back you up in case Kaisa decides to turn. Another thing to keep in mind in this matchup is that the meta build for Kaisa has been to rush a BF sword into Executioners and then an additional longsword for a quick evolution of Akathian Rain. Though this build is fantastic in acquiring the evolution, the overall item stats definitely prevent her from finishing a complete item early on. Ezreal, on the other hand, has a very straightforward build path, prioritizing the very cheap item Manamune. This means that you'll be able to spam much more abilities than Kaisa and hit a relatively strong item power spike earlier on. Of course, she will still have her evolved Akathian Rain, which is practically an item of itself, but do your best as Ezreal to utilize your practically unlimited mana pool in lane to constantly harass her before she's able to go back. By doing so, you're able to gain more precedence in potential teamfights since your positioning and back timing will be more controlled. Also, if you can, try out Ezreal Braum when playing against the Kaisa lane. Oftentimes, you're not going to have the actual ability to influence what your support plays, but if you do by any chance, or if you're doing with a friend, this combo excels at dealing with mobile hyper carries. Since Ezreal's Mystic Shot procs Braum's passive concussive blows, he can very quickly stun targets that Braum is auto-attack, being able to weave in auto-attacks and Mystic Shots back to back. And if you build Frozen Gauntlet, the amount of slows and crowd control is no joke. This lockdown is incredibly oppressive in general and absolutely destroys Kaisa. After all, what can Kaisa do if she's constantly slowed and stunned? The answer? Nothing. A little bit of crying about support gap maybe, but yeah, nothing. Our next matchup is Alistar versus Sona. Honestly, Alistar is one of Sona's worst nightmares. She's known for being super squishy, and if she gets locked down by the cow, the Muse is in for a terrible time. So, how do you play in this specific matchup? The key is you gotta abuse Alistar early on, because his level 1 is absolutely horrible. And as long as you don't get absolutely cheesed in a bush by his Pulverize, he just doesn't have enough utility in his kit to win trades. Sona, on the other hand, has a fantastic tool to poke down the bull with the usage of enhanced autos from the usage of her first ability, Hymn of Valor. The key to abusing the level 1 advantage against Alistar is to have 2 stacks of Sona's passive by the time you get into lane. This ensures that for the next usage of Hymn of Valor, you'll deal enhanced damage from your third skill alongside additional damage from your auto attack. To set this up, use your ability at the very beginning of the game when you're still in Fountain. By doing so, you gain a stack on your passive without the cost of mana, since the Fountain heals you up. Then use your first ability again when leashing for your jungler or just going to lane, assuming you don't want to leash. Poke Alistar down as much as possible, making sure you're not taking too many hits from the minions. Practically, the only way you'll lose a level 1 trade is if you walk completely into the minion wave or your ADC is trash, and it happens. Now, once you and Alistar are both level 2, the real game begins. At this point, you're going to need to be very respectful about his Headbutt Pulverize combo. Make sure your Area of Perseverance Power Chord is ready, either by having the second ability off cooldown with 2 stacks, or simply having 3 stacks on Power Chord with the ability. You're going to continue keeping your distance, but Alistar more than likely is going to try to Headbutt Pulverize combo you, and if he does so successfully, you're going to be dead. Instead, when he goes in for the combo, cast Area of Perseverance and throw out your Power Chord. This will reduce his damage from the combo, which is going to be the biggest amount of damage coming from him for the rest of the short skirmish, and will give you a temporary shield to also absorb the rest of the hit. The key is to be confident, but you gotta be wary of the cows engage. You can still win the trade, but if you panic, you're going to die. Make sure you focus Alistar there after the trade with your AD carry providing additional damage to support, because both of you are ranged and Alistar is melee, and once he uses his combo, if he tries to auto attack you in the minion wave, he's gonna lose out on the trade, so he has to walk out. And that is your opportunity to always punish. You do this right, you're gonna win out on every single trade against Alistar. Also, don't forget the advantage that you do have at level 1. Use your range and use your poke to the advantage so that if you chunk out Alistar early on, then when he goes in for the Headbutt Pulverize combo at level 2, he is at risk to dying to the all-in after. One more tip, Alistars love to flash engage, so it doesn't hurt to have your own flash ready to activate in order to react immediately. The more you know, the more you can prepare for it. And since Sona isn't a mechanically intensive champion, she revolves heavily around game knowledge. Our last matchup of the day is Twisted Fate versus Akali. Akali is phenomenal at blowing up squishy targets, and lucky for her, Twisted Fate is pretty squishy. This makes playing against Akali a huge nightmare for the card-wielding magician because he lacks the survivability to survive Akali's burst. In lane, Akali can easily abuse her shroud to maneuver around Twisted Fate. She can either wait out the timer on his pick a card if it's a gold card and choose to poke him after, or hit him before he chooses a card and disappear right back into the shroud. Once she gets him low enough, by using perfect execution, the ninja can easily decimate Twisted Fate, making her an excellent counter pick. But there's still a lot Twisted Fate can do. In a 1v1 scenario against Akali, chances are he's not going to win unless the Akali is just bad or if TF is turbo fed. So try to focus your efforts elsewhere on the map. Technically, you do have a small advantage level 1 as Twisted Fate, since you can always threaten an Akali with gold card if she ever walks up to you for Q and auto harass, since she is melee. So you can try to chunk her out using your range, but then once she gets level 2, it gets tricky. But even then, you still have wildcard and you still have the red version of your pick a card ability, which allows you to maximize your wave clearing ability. Push out the wave and look to invade with your jungler, or use your ultimate ability in Destiny to gank a side lane. Also, Destiny reveals all enemies on the map, regardless of where they are and whether they're in Shroud or not. Hint hint, Akali during team fights, who can be very difficult to deal with normally, but you pop Destiny during a team fight, you reveal her even if she's in the Shroud, you pop the gold card, the rest of your team follows up, bada bing, bada boom, bada bam, bap. You got a dead assassin. You can also use other methods of being able to reveal Akali, whether it's other champion abilities like Lulu's Help Picks, or you can even use your red sweeper trinket to reveal her within the Shroud. And if you have skill shot crowd control abilities, you can encourage your teammates to use that to focus down the Akali. After all, with so many different champions and therefore different playstyles, there are countless possibilities of countering any move in Wild Rift. The At the end of the day, it's your own knowledge and skill that will pull off a victory, not necessarily the innate champion matchups. But if you find yourself bumping your head into a brick wall during lane, unable to find solutions to win the matchup, try to find options elsewhere. Roam the map, help other lanes win. After all, Wild Rift is a team game, so you don't always have to be the one to take down your lane opponents. Terminamos, familia. That's going to be it for today's Wild Rift video. If you like the content, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more upcoming videos. Also, make sure you leave a response in the question of the day in the comment section below. Join our community Discord, and we'll see you on the Wild Rift next time, gamers. Adios!